the recording, share my screen, share. Okay, so hello everybody and welcome to today's ODTN use case steering team call. Please, as usual, put your name on the agenda. I'm gonna copy the link for it in the chat if you don't have it, so you have it. And please. So first order of business that I wanted to talk to you about today is the working meeting that we are having at the ONF offices in Menlo Park the day before ONF Connect, and that is on Monday the 3rd between 9:30 and 1:30 p.m. I know that few people are willing to join. I can ask everybody who's going to be attending locally at ONF to fill up this form that you can see here. Is just email address, name, surname, and company, and if you're staying for lunch. It's just so I have an idea of how many people are gonna turn up, and I can plan accordingly for this event. Then this is going to be an event talking about kind of everything related to ODTN from a technical perspective. Can you guys still hear me?
Yes.
Okay. From a technical perspective, so I plan to cover the status of phase 1.5 and the timeline for phase 1.5, the status for other elements integration. It's going to be basically a longer version of this call with like a look at the status of things as they are at the moment of the meeting. So please register to this Google form, and just so I know that you plan to come. Any questions? No? Okay, great.
Andrea,
Yes, please, Hiroki, come again.
that'd be great, but maybe Dai can't join this meeting because the board meeting will be held at the same time frame, so he has to join it, and only I will join it from entity com. Yes.
Okay. Okay, that is fine. I mean, I know you work with Dai pretty closely, so I think it's fine by me if you can join. So just as I said, please confirm your participation, and if you bring along any colleague from ONF from your company to ONF Connect, and they're interested in ODTN and they want to join, just tell them that they can come. Okay, regarding the ONF Connect demo, I want to share some update. So I've spoke with a few providers of the open line system, and it's I would say a bit hard to get the open line system integrated, and also with TAPI 2.1 by the time ONF Connect happens. So my plan is that ONF Connect is to show a phase 1.0 demo with some. Because it has never been shown before at an ONF related event, and really has been only shown at IPOP before. So I think it's still good value showing it and letting people know that we are working towards a phase 1.5 demo at OFC. So that's pretty. I think it's still good. It's still valuable. I'm in talks with both Infinera and Nokia to see if they can lend us a couple of transponders to have some physical hardware locally at the venue. I know that Nokia is planning to have remote access to their setup, so at least that would be possible. But I would like some hardware to be present at the demo. So that's about it. Any questions? Okay. Then just a matter of a small update. I submitted the demo proposal that was talking about ODTN and the intent-based approach in pieces that we're using to OFC, and I'm actually planning to propose something similar to this meeting to OFC too. But that's just to let you know. For the TAPI 2.1 release, Arturo, which I believe is not on the call, still probably needs to put his name on the quote in the blog post. Oscar, Ramon, can you see that that happens? Or
Hi,
is
yes,
he?
hi, this is Oscar.
Hello,
So
Oscar.
for the blog post, so for the blog post, then we'll tell you as soon as possible. And I think now in some minutes the name to go on the quote on
Yes,
the
because
post.
we were looking at a target date of
Yes,
what is it? Tomorrow. So we were looking at
yes, so
releasing that tomorrow. Can we do
yeah,
that?
no, it's yes, I just some minutes, just because the internal procedures always take time to
Yes.
have the approval of the director to sign it.
Hmm. Okay, then yeah, as soon as you have it, just let me know. It would be better if by tonight or tomorrow morning European time would be great.
Uh,
Okay, so now let's go into the OLS discussion update. So I've talked with the people at ADVA, and they confirmed that they plan to participate and targeted a schedule of implementation of TAPI 2.1 on their OLS controller by OFC in order for us to integrate it into ONOS by that time and have it ready for the conference. I was also in talks with Corient and Infinera, and they also committed to doing the same. So I think it's going to be a good set of vendors also on the OLS system, and then we would need to plan if to use Cassini or other type of transponders. I was discussing with the people from Telefonica and from Infinera too about the necessity of putting the OLS details in the demo proposal, and so we'll consider it if to put them inside there or not. What I really want to take a look at today and get your opinion on is this document. So I've created this document a while ago. I've updated it now to show what type of um, flow and implementation we are gonna need for the OLS driver. So the first thing is, you guys know, the device discovery. So both the people I've been talking to are okay with exposing the OLS component as one big switch like abstraction with incoming and outgoing ports on either side of the system. So we will need to find out about this device and its details through an implementation of what I called an ODTN TAPI device description discovery class. In order to discover details like the vendor, the model, and all of that, but especially about the ports. And when I mean ports, I mean the transponder facing interfaces of the open line system. And also, like if it's needed, here it would be where we tag them properly for anything that would need to be done in TAPI or ODTN from a northbound perspective. So I would expect the TAPI photonic media and the TAPI topology. I forgot to put it here. Sorry. Well, actually, no. Sorry. Yes, no. I now remember. The TAPI photonic media is actually a superset of the TAPI topology model. So I would expect the information about the OLS and its capabilities to be discovered with the TAPI photonic media Yang model from the 2.1 release. And then we will need to provide ONOS with, after this this file is implemented, we would need to provide to ONOS via network configuration a JSON file that contains the IP and the port to which we talk to the device itself. Here, I did not write it down, but I expect the protocol to be REST or RESTconf. That actually, from the ONOS perspective, does not change much because it's an HTTP call. It would change internally on the OLS implementation because of the status of the system and some like operations, just the two-phase committing, etc. But from an ONOS perspective, it's just a REST over HTTP call, even if it's RESTconf protocol. So you can see an example of the device description discovery here. And this uses REST. I mean, everybody here is familiar because we used it in phase 1.0 for the transponders with netconf, but it's kind of the same thing. Then we will need to implement a flow rule programmable for this OLS in order to create the connection between one port and the other port. And internally, this OLS will compute the path between the elements and give us an end-to-end connectivity. When speaking to both the people from ADVA and the people from Corient and Infinera, they were agreeing that we should not go in and do the computation ourselves on the WSS and the max ponder and amplifier. They should take care of those things and the configuration, and they just give us a cross-connection based a virtual cross connection based on an input port and an output port and power and wavelength. And this would need to be done with the TAPI connectivity Yang model call. And an example with REST is this one. There might be a case where we will need to go back and forth with the OLS controller and see what wavelengths are available before computing.
So that you mean that before that you are thinking in a case that before actually doing the setup of the connectivity, there would be need of doing like a path computation or something similar to tell you, okay, these are all the possibilities, and these are the possibilities, as you say, include all the possible wavelengths as a result, and then based on that you say, okay, then I want wavelength number 1 or 3 or
Yes.
whatever.
Yes, exactly. So this is a possibility that I was exploring with the people from ADVA, because in the past they have done something like this, where they would expose a set of existing paths end to end instead of letting the controller pick and saying no if it wasn't possible. So when we go in and actually implement the driver, we will maybe need to do this little component where we actually go and figure out the possible.
Okay, so then the point-to-point configuration that you were mentioning right now included directly setting up the wavelength.
Yes.
As you wanted to have it here. Okay.
Yes. Because
that then you assume that and then just to understand how all would this work. So with the OLS abstraction, you would not know anything about how are the wavelengths, etc. So you just plan that, okay, here from here to here you can set up services and full stop, right? And then later on, okay, you want to say case A is okay, please go from here to here using this wavelength, and then if you are lucky, you get it. If you are not lucky, you don't get it. And
well, no, it's not a matter of luck. If the OLS exposes that capability, and it will reply to us, yes, I can do it. If instead it exposes, let's say, a set of paths So if it doesn't expose a set of paths, I assume that every wavelength is capable of accepting every wavelength. Instead, if we need to figure out something from the wavelength perspective, it means that it's already pre-computed some paths on a certain wavelength, and at that point we will need to ask him, okay, what are you capable of? These set of paths, okay, I am choosing path 1, 2, or 3. I would go for the first option where we actually say this is the wavelength we want, and that comes from the northbound TAPI request. But if the second option would need to be done, it would be a one step more in the computation of the.
I mean, you know, yes, please, Ramon.
No, I'm thinking that to me, in my experience, the most straightforward way that we did with Alessio in the OpenRODOM case is to use the lambda query behavior in which the device reports which wavelengths it can tune in a given port. This is the most straightforward because then you can use the machinery that ONOS already have to allocate an end-to-end wavelength. But this means that at any moment, ONOS core may query a given device port, what are the wavelengths in this port? So ideally, we need from the OLS two capabilities. One is the capability to report which wavelengths are available on a per virtual port, which in terms of TAPI will be per service interface point. Imagine that you have a big RODOM. If it's a big RODOM, I would query what are the wavelengths that you can multiplex or you can switch in this OMS port. And then the RODOM will say the whole C-band at 50 gigahertz, for example. This is something that ONOS queries asynchronously and stores in the resource database. So when you launch the intent, you can find an end-to-end continuous wavelength. So we need first the ability to have this from the OLS. And second, once we compute the end-to-end wavelength, the ability to impose the wavelength. But if we can do that, the implementation is more straightforward than having to iterate or to try paths on that kind of things. If we can just, there is already an existing ONOS behavior. It's called the lambda query behavior. So it's very straightforward to implement. So we need these.
Ramon, this behavior that you are saying is intended to a device, but here you in the OLS is an end-to-end between 2 points. It's not just a matter of 1 point. So,
but Oscar, we are but we're assuming the big switch abstraction.
Yes, but
which
so
means
which means one big switch with n ports. So you have n multiplied by n minus 1 combinations. So are you going to report all of these possible combinations, which are free?
No, the ONOS model, the ONOS optical model, does not do the n times n minus 1. It assumes that it's a colorless, contentionless, no, colorless, directionless RODOM. So basically, you announce which wavelengths you can switch on a port, assuming that then you can forward the wavelength to any other port. So if you have a RODOM with...
It might be a very big assumption. Here we are starting, I mean, here is an abstraction what we are doing of an OLS. The OLS internally, you don't know really anything about the OLS. I cannot assume that I can go from one port to another.
I'm just mentioning this in order to reuse existing machinery. Otherwise, someone, and I don't know which someone, was going to need to implement the path computation or the wavelength assignment somehow.
Yes, so in the only other choice is, okay, when you want to connect, the first you need to query, okay, from this port to this port, which are the wavelengths available, you take them, and then ONOS will say, okay, now I know that these are the wavelengths that are available. I also know the your transponders. You will also know their tuning capabilities, and from that, the ONOS machinery will be able to know it. But then you will need to implement the specific query on from port A to port B. Give me the possible wavelengths.
Oscar, I understand this. I understand the theory. My point, this is why I'm commenting, is to somehow fit as much as possible in the already existing mechanisms, so you don't need to care which application implements the query of the port to that port. If you just so ONOS already has this background process that somehow queries. I'm not saying it's possible. I'm aware of the implications and not all the way. But if it is, it's much more an order of magnitude simpler to implement this than to implement all the logic that you would really need in a OLS interface.
Yes. So my take is this. We're putting together this document also to reach out to the people implementing the OLS itself. So let's use this document to figure out with the likes of Adva, Corient, and Infinera what is their OLS capable of, because I think we're gonna get different answers, and like, oh, maybe we can do this, maybe we cannot do this. So let's figure that out. And I think we have three options. One is try and impose it, and if the OLS says no, we just say no to the upper layers and we let the upper layers figure it out. Or we find out the wavelength, like Ramon was saying, and that would be the easiest way. Or we create a new behavior to find possible wavelength between two pair of ports and possible set of wavelength between two pair of ports and implement the logic to use it. Those are the three options. Do you agree?
Yes, I fully agree, of course, and the problem is to really see where this logic is actually implemented in the service application. It's implemented upon a TAPI RPC request, or is implemented asynchronously, somehow like periodically, so you have that resource database. These are things that are still to be defined.
So I believe that let's call it option number one, which is find out about the wavelength capability. I think that we keep the existing behavior, while number two can only be done when the pair of ports are actually given to us. So it would need to be done at setup time of the TAPI request.
There is another question, if I may, and this is, I don't know the answer. I would like people doing the OLS to comment. Can we, I know that you mentioned this, I'm sorry I'm repeating, but to me it's a very key question. Can we impose the wavelength, or is the wavelength given to us once we request the connectivity between two ports?
So to the best of my knowledge, or to the people I spoke to, we are capable of asking for a wavelength. Asking, when I say asking, I mean, we would like this wavelength, can you do it? And then we
okay, that's important. That's important.
At least
because it's not give me a light path and then he replies the wavelength I assigned for this light path is 10. I would like to say give me the light path 10.
Sorry, can you repeat that? I maybe missed the point.
Yeah. In some OLSs that we discussed and with other people, it's you always have the possibility. I want to establish whatever a network media channel or a media channel that supports this spectrum.
Yes.
And then the OLS replies which central frequency they assign to you. That's the case. Like they give you back the central wavelength. Or the case that we want is I want a media channel with this spectrum using this nominal central frequency. I would like to clarify from the OLS providers, you said this, I'm just insisting, but to me it's a key point. Can we use this model where we impose the nominal central frequency? Because if not, the whole thing changes in that we need to first provision the OLS media channel, retrieve the network media channel properties like the central frequency, and then configure the transceivers with the selected frequency.
Yes. Yes.
It's a very, sorry, just a final comment. It's a very similar problem that we had in another context with the VLAN. I know it's not the scope here, but in some cases you request a VLAN connection and the underlying controller tells you, I allocated you VLAN 10. In another case, I want to use VLAN 10 from this port to this port.
Okay. Yeah. Yes, I think these are very good questions, and I have follow-up calls with both with a lot of people, and I'm gonna make sure to ask about these questions and get back the answer of the capability. Of the capability of the different type of OLSs we're looking at. Okay, it's good. Okay. Yes, and I'll make sure to like write examples of these possibilities with like existing things. Okay, so that was the OLS discussion. Also related to the OLS discussion, something that I wanted to talk about, what would be the best approach for you guys. I hope we have somebody from the TAPI team in here. Not really, like that. It's not really great, but okay. I'll worst case I'll bring this up to TAPI team via email. So as we were looking for the
Andrea,
yes.
I want to ask you one basic thing.
Yes.
Why you assume to use REST and RESTconf instead of netconf? Current possible operating systems are only support RESTconf interfaces.
I know that many OLS subsystems that we spoke to have are exposing RESTconf for this for the TAP implementation they have. Plain and simple. I'm not against using netconf at all. I mean, it's just a way of conveying the information. It's plain and simple.
I agree. All the TAPI interoperability events, I've seen 2016, 18, they are all using RESTconf. I think it's a straightforward implementation. Nothing would prevent using netconf, as you perfectly know. But this is why Arturo also asked on by email about the RESTconf, because since TAPI is mostly used as a northbound interface, the for a controller, not for a device, the straightforward protocol that people use in these cases is RESTconf. The same case is for ONOS. ONOS does not have a netconf NDI.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay, I see. I got the point. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so now since we're looking at this implementation with REST and we need to develop this 2.1 driver pending the different information and discussions that we are having, obviously it's we need to, even if we just start the implementation with the discovery of the device and its ports, we will need a simulator to be able to like get a reply. So as we have discussed in the email, there are a couple of options. We could use the TAPI RI project, which basically starts at TAPI 2.1 northbound on top of, or TAPI 2.0.2 northbound on top of ONOS, so we would need to ask the TAPI people to augment it to 2.1. That would be an option. The other option is to auto-generate the code with the Swagger CodeGen and input the Swagger file from generated from the OAS subfolder of TAPI. My propension and my choice would probably go with the second one, because I mean, it's, in my opinion, less resources than to create and augment the ONOS in TAPI RI. But if the TAPI people, and that's why I'm kind of sad that nobody from TAPI is on the call, but if they are planning to augment it, like in the next few weeks or like in the next week, I would wait for them to do so. Any thoughts?
Again, I'm not sure I fully grasp your question. Can you?
My question would be, what would be the preference of this group to go either with augmenting the ONOS, porting the ONOS inside TAPI RI to 2.1, or auto-generating some code from Swagger file created out of the OAS directory?
This is my opinion, Ramon, as individual and something. We are fighting significantly to support TAPI in the NBI with ONOS due to the complexity of ONOS Young tools. And we are already addressing things like RPC and the basic requirements like topology, so they are integrated in ONOS NBI. Since we can afford having here an OLS emulator, I think very reasonable. I know that from a selling perspective, it would be very beautiful to have ONOS over ONOS and use ONOS TAPI NBI as an emulator from the OLS. But it is not straightforward to have an implementation of TAPI in the ONOS NBI. And for the purposes of the demo, it may be easy to use a Swagger or a reference implementation or any kind of already tested tool by Telefonica and company to just implement the OLS in the emulator. It's just a matter of simplicity. That said, I expect that for this demo, we don't even need the topology model because we are assuming a basic big switch. So just exporting the TAPI context in which you disclose your service interface points, and these service interface points are tagged with attributes. A very basic implementation could be made in ONOS, but since it would be beautiful to explore the new additions in the TAPI photonic media, it can be beneficial for also for the subsequent releases and something to decouple this and use some Python or something that is quite flexible. But this is only one particular opinion. I wouldn't be against to have also ONOS emulating OLS since it is supposed to have a TAPI interface.
Okay. Okay.
I would let the other people speak their preferences.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. In my opinion, we should use Swagger CodeGen first.
Okay. Yeah,
for me, using that is also, as Ramon said, I think this is something fast and easy to have something quickly up and running.
Okay.
And to be able to test too.
Yeah, and yeah, I'll reach out to the TAPI people, see what they say about it, and then I think we can go for option number 2.
If I may also, you could ping NEC people, Karthik in particular.
Yeah.
The actual reference implementation is version 2.0. If they don't plan to update it to 2.1, and the major contribution of 2.1 is precisely the photonic layer, then the Swagger from the OpenAPI specification can be the approach, because I don't know how difficult it is to update the reference implementation from DAPI to 2.1.
Yeah, I'll reach out to Kartik and Lyndon and the rest of the people from the TAPI team and see what they say about it. Okay, let's progress on. And Hiroki, do you have any update on the Cassini box integration?
I don't know. You might already know the Mr. Murakami from IP Infusion, who is in charge of the who is the CTO and in charge of the Cassini box integration of NetConf. He left IP Infusion and he takes over his position to other guys. So now I'm approaching them, and this week I'll have a meeting with them.
Okay.
So yeah, so there's no progress about this topic.
Okay. Okay, let's go forward. Then the state of drivers.
Sure, thank you.
Oh, thanks, Hiroki. Thanks for the update. So the state of the drivers, we have merged the Infinera update with the OpenConfig wrapper classes to use DCS also in the southbound towards the transponder. So this is a great addition that was made by the people from NTT, especially Hamano. And so thanks for that. I still need to maybe discuss a bit with Hiroki what would be the plan to use, how would we use them in the future, but that's something that we can do at a later stage. So in relationship to the Metro Hall OpenConfig drivers, Ramon, do you have any update?
You got my update by email. I'm just blessing that I can have, praying some God that I can have a dedicated few days to implement this. I apologize. We've been busy with other things. Mm-hmm. It's as you know, it's planned. Hopefully, I could have it in 1 or 2 weeks, mm-hmm. so I can have the complete OpenConfig with the logical channel association. Not half, sorry, 1, 2 weeks.
Yeah, that was autocorrect.
I know, I'm just kidding. So the only impediment now is being able to dedicate implementation time. Okay. It's not difficult. It should be relatively easy. You know, we discussed this by email a couple of times. It's just mapping the actual flow mods to the channel allocation that it's to be defined in the agent. Mm-hmm. And for the TAPI to optical intent, I already identified there is an intent manager. It is quite straightforward to create your intent based on programmatically information. We just need to check the TAPI topology, check the UUID, and map which port is it. So it shouldn't be complex. I just need actual time to do it.
Okay. Okay. Does just quick question? Does anybody have any time to help Ramon on this?
Unless you offered, yeah.
Ramon, I can dedicate some effort on. We have just to decide how I can help.
Yeah, we will discuss Alessio, Oscar, Victor, and company, and how to proceed. Arturo had already good ideas in how to do the mapping, so everything is on the table to do this. We just need to get our hands with this, so as soon as possible.
Yeah, and okay. As soon as you have some review, even if it's in a very early draft, please upload it so I can take a look and maybe guide you through some details of the implementation that my knowledge.
Definitely, you know that you know that I had a patch that it's almost abandoned doing this. Probably I will, since it diverged from the master significantly. Probably I will abandon that patch and do it again, the same thing. But yeah, we'll follow the process and have something a bit more complete than the previous iteration.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. Sounds good. Okay. Thanks for that. That is. Yeah, I think it's straightforward to do the mapping, but it's just a matter of actually getting it done. Okay. I think there is really no update that is needed on the optical connectivity intent. I mean, it's there.
Yeah, Andrea.
Yes.
On that point, as I mentioned it by email, so I did this extension to allow the utilization of a suggested path. And also I did a quite straightforward extension of the current optical rest to get the suggested path from an external application. This is not passing through the transport API tool, but however, the extension of the optical connectivity intent, I guess, can be reutilized for all the tools.
Yes. Okay. That's great, Alessio. Thanks. And as usual, as you know, and please upload it to get.
Yeah, I will upload as soon as possible.
Sure. And I'll do a review on that.
Yeah.
So I think this is all said and done about the configuration. Regarding the last point, I will organize a session about the dynamic configuration 2.0 during ONF Connect, or at least the working day of ODTN. I still have to figure out the exact schedule of that working day. I think I want to leave a lot of open discussions with people being in front of each other. I would like to leave a lot of time for discussing like these topics. So I would like also to organize this session about the DCS 2.0, because that's something that it's really important for us, and it's kind of on the back burner because we have very few resources. So let's see what we can do on that, especially during the meeting that we plan to have. And just I forgot, for people that were not here last time, the meeting that I plan to have on Monday, it's gonna be in the morning, from 9:30 to 1:30. So that is also to help people from the European area to join remotely. I know it's kinda at dinner time, but especially the first maybe 2 hours from 9:30 to 11:30 could be doable for people on an European time frame. That is the best that we can do from a Pacific point of view. Especially since it's an in-person meeting, I cannot start the meeting at 8 a.m. So I could maybe look at bringing it to 9, but I think 9:30 is the right time. I will provide a bridge, and I will send it over with the details of the meeting on the mailing list, so everybody has that. Okay. Any other questions, points? Oh, there is something that I wanted to share with everybody. I forgot about it. Jira stories. So I put some of the details here inside a set of Jira stories that I will put underneath here, and I will also include some of these tasks, the optical connectivity intent, the intent translation, the drivers, into Jira stories, and I'll assign them to the people that I think are gonna be the one working on them. And so if you see something like that, it's just for me to track the work that it's getting done, because otherwise we only write into a Google Doc, and it's not really the perfect thing. So yeah, it's just the ODTN Scrum board. I put some Jira stories in it, and I plan to assign them to the different people, also to track the different contribution and be recognized for the contribution themselves. One thing that I would like to mention from a code point of view is that I don't know how many of you are aware, but we are moving ONOS to Carafe 4.2.1. So as you may know, we are currently on a very old version of Carafe, which is going to be unsupported very soon, and does not support Java higher than 8. So since also Java 8 is gonna go to unsupported, we needed the move to Karaf 4.1. But the Karaf 4.1 being a major upgrade from 3.x that we were using in the past, needed a lot of refactoring in itself. So actually, if any of you has been following the threads, we are gonna actually have 2 releases of ONOS in the shorter time frame. A 1.15 release, which is gonna include everything that is going on right now, but on Karaf 3. The version of Karaf we are using right now, I forgot the specific version. And then we are also cherry picking every change that is going into the master into a new Karaf branch called dev 4.2.1, which has the new version of Karaf. So when 1.15 is going to go out, we're going to have 1.15, which is on 3. something, with all the changes, but also what we call ONOS 2.0 with Karaf 4.1, partially graphic user interface 2, Kubernetes deployment, and a bit more on that side. So it's just that when we are gonna release for the ONOS 2.0, we would actually need to make sure that every functionality of ODTN is still working, and I'll be working also on maybe some QA with the people from Sterlite to do that. Any questions?
Where can we expect this 2.0 to happen, more or less?
So at the time of the release of ONOS 1.15, it's gonna be 1 month, maybe more than that, but before the end of the year, that would be the expectation.
Okay, to me it seems fine, and we will adapt definitely. But in the previous conference call, I was about to mention the possibility maybe in the future to branch or to freeze in a given version if there were a lot of incoming changes. It's part of the process, but since we're in ODTN, there have been some changes that have sometimes broken interfaces or broken APIs, and I don't know if this is a bit setting back.
Yes,
but
absolutely.
I guess that until now it's quite reasonable. Yeah.
So I do believe that working on the bleeding edge has its advantages and its disadvantages. There are 2 approaches to this. One approach is to have a QA and that does an end-to-end testing of the process that we have in order to make sure we don't lose any performance or any capability. That's one thing. And we could still work on master if we had that. The other option would be that we freeze or that we stay 1 version behind, in the sense that for demos and deployments and also some development, meaning especially drivers and not really core ONOS things, things that do not touch the core, such as the tap implementation to the northbound or southbound drivers for many devices, we could stay a version behind. So let's say let's say if we start with this with 2.0, 2.1, we pick 2.0 version or 1.15, and then when ONOS is going to move to 2.1, we're just going to stay on 2.0 since we know ODTN on 2.0 is working at the time we release. I'm going to put a note about that and discuss internally what is the best process for that. Okay.
Great. Oh, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
Hey, hi, Andrea.
Yes, please come again.
Hey, hi, Andrea. This is Puneet from Sterlite Technologies.
Oh, hey.
Hi. So we are pretty much actually, excited to work on this and contribute on this QA part. And I think we'll discuss in detail over the workshop, which is there on 3rd December. And we'll discuss in details about how we need to actually contribute further in this QA.
Sure. Thanks. And if you want for a more friendly time frame to India and other countries you work on, we could organize a meeting within the two of us. I can do that.
Sure, I think that pretty much required actually, right? Yeah. So
Okay.
we'll discuss, I think, a friendly time and I think over workshop itself, right?
Okay. Yeah, I'll send out an email for that. Okay.
Sure. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank
Any other questions? No? Okay. If not, thanks everybody for joining the call. I'll follow up about the different things we discussed today, especially related to the OLS with the people from the different companies we're going to be working with. And yeah, look out for the Jira stories and please complete the form if you plan to attend to the workshop on the 3rd. Thanks everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye bye bye. Bye.